This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, this meeting is being recorded. So before I pull up the presentation, we can go ahead and take turns introducing ourselves, sharing your nickname if you don't want to go by your first name, and letting us know how you feel today. And later at the end, we'll ask you how you feel again, just to see if your mood is improved or anything like that by the end of the training. So I'm Dakota Fisher, obviously, and I feel pretty great today, pretty honored to have you guys all here. Whoever wants to go next can go.
My
Hi.
name is Jessica. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was
Go
going to
ahead,
say, if you
sweetie.
want to raise your hand so I know I can call on you, or you can just go. It's a small group, so.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Okay, I'm Jessica Greenlee. I'm feeling pretty great today as well. I just left an ice skating thing for a friend, one of my regulars I waited on for 3 years. She actually Special Olympics, so
Wow.
it's always an honor to meet her. And her coaches know me, and her team is like a family. So so it's an honor to do that. So I got to do that today, and but yeah, I'm great.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Jessica.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm not going to be on video because I look like a hot mess right now. So I'm just going to be listening and helping read. I'm feeling good today.
Thank you. Tammy, that just leaves you if you want to go. Are you still hearing us, Tammy?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. It's weird because it's like skipping through some stuff or like freezing a lot. So I'm not hearing some of it and I'm hearing some of it. I don't know if my
Okay.
settings are just funny or.
Yeah, well, we can hear you pretty good, so hopefully you can hang in there with us. If you want to share your
Yeah.
name and how you're feeling.
Well, I'm Tammy. I'm feeling pretty good. It's always a good day when I have a weekend where I'm not working. I got some plans to, do some work in the yard later today. So hopefully, it doesn't rain too hard. Probably do some of that, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad we could get you in because we were going to do this earlier, but you were busy at that time, and now we got you in, so that's
Yeah.
great. So I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen. Just got to make a couple quick adjustments here. All right, so welcome to Radical Recovery Peer Support. This is session one. We won't be here longer than maybe 2 hours. Hopefully we can fly through this. There's going to be quite a bit of reading because there's not that many participants. So we'll each take turns reading. I'll let you know, how many times you need to read. Well, let me see, we got 4 of us. So I can tell you how many we'll be reading right now. 4. So everybody will read about 4 slides. If you can read a little bit more, because we don't have a second facilitator today, it's just me, that'll be great. But if everyone could at least read at least 4 times, then that meets your participation requirement. So there's 2 kinds of participation that you can do here. One is just participation, which is a certificate that does not allow you to be a facilitator. And then we have a completion certificate in participation. So if you participate in all the different ways that you can participate in this group, you'll get a certificate which will allow you to take the facilitator training. So, as I've already said so far, there are about 4 times you'll need to read something in this group here. So I'll get started. So this is the goal page that you can see on your screen. Hopefully, if everybody can see on the screen, okay, great. So basically, this curriculum emphasizes linear growth through the development of the 9 recovery fundamentals and 3 recovery concepts. So the goals of the program are based on the fundamentals of recovery and the recovery concepts. The goals are to learn to develop a recovery plan, to take our recovery to greater heights, learn the importance of and how to perform self-care, overcome challenges or troubling thoughts, handle stressful or difficult situations, achieve personal growth and wellness, and live a self-directed life. We all want that, don't we? So the final goal is, and it's very important for this group, learn that while participating in recovery, we are at every moment a mentor and a model of recovery behavior. I don't know why my screen just changed. I didn't do that, but we're good. So this is a little bit intensive here. This shares some quotes from Mahatma Gandhi and Gregorio Lewis. Gregorio Lewis is a person who helped me develop this group. He wrote some books that I found really inspiring. And in this group, not today, but in the subsequent sessions, we'll read some passages from his book. So it says in the Better Days Workbook passage, Creating Change, talks about Mahatma Gandhi, a great Indian spiritual leader, who said, be the change you want to see in the world. There are some people that said he didn't say that, but we won't get in the controversy here. It's a great idea, though. Be the change you want to see in the world. Gregorio Lewis said, I say, why is it doing that? We'll just have to switch back, I guess, sometimes. Gregorio Lewis said, I say first that I must change myself into the person I want to be. So basically the words from Creating Change and Mahatma Gandhi say that if we focus on our own personal growth and our own personal experiences, the world will change in our direction as we model the behaviors we want to see in the world. Many programs say that giving back and helping others with the same problems as we have experienced is a final step. This program says that mentoring is something that occurs throughout all of recovery. So in addition, many people who have been successful in recovery say that giving back, taking commitments to support others, and remembering that they are an example of recovery in their communities help them the most in their recovery. So if we could get a reader to read the 9 fundamentals. Well, if anyone has any questions on that, you could ask some questions right now. Take a couple minutes for that. If anyone wants to raise a hand or just say something. Okay, then. All right, so if we could get a reader for the 9 recovery fundamentals. Oh, Jessica has something. Go ahead, Jessica.
Okay. Recovery fundamentals are a set of characteristics that we can use to gauge the strength of our recovery and include, but are not limited to, honesty, trust, acceptance, hope, personal responsibility, self-advocacy, support, purpose, and self-actualization.
It looks like we skipped a thing there. If you could read that last bit, a breakdown of the fundamentals.
Okay. A breakdown of fundamentals listed first can cause difficulty with the fundamentals listed last.
Right. Thank you, Jessica. So the idea there is that like honesty being the first listed, totally affects our ability to incorporate the later fundamentals into our lives. If we have challenges with honesty, trust, or acceptance from the earlier fundamentals, it'll be harder to have hope, personal responsibility, and self-advocacy. So I'll read this one. These are the parallel recovery concepts. They are self-care, recovery planning, and mentoring. So as we had just a minute ago, we had the recovery fundamentals. Now we have the parallel recovery concepts. Really important in this program. So if someone wants to read this, that would be great. Okay, Tammy, that's great.
Growth often does not occur linearly, although many of us wish it. Imagine if you knew X amount of growth. We often hope growth would look like this and what it usually looks like.
Right, so as we can see, we hope that growth just kind of, it grows faster and faster as time goes by. So you see it's like a really upward sloping graph. And then what it usually looks like is just obviously that bottom image, it's just kind of all over the place. So we're going to get into something called the linear growth model, which is just a model. It's not like a fact, but it's something to aim for. And hopefully that's on the next slide, I think. Yes. So I will read this one. The linear growth model gets its name from the idea that growth is usually nonlinear. We want to put consistent effort into each of the 9 fundamentals, which will result in more, but not all, consistent experiences in our lives. When developed inconsistently with this format, inconsistent and unexpected outcomes may occur. When developed in the order listed previously, each of the 9 recovery fundamentals assists in the cultivation of the other fundamentals. When utilizing the parallel recovery concepts in conjunction with the recovery fundamentals, we can shift our results to a better outcome. So we have an image here, okay, the linear growth model on the right. We have some constantly sloping lines. You know, they grow at the same rate over time. As you can see, the bottom blue line is honesty. Well, it starts with honesty and goes all the way to self-actualization. And then we have the yellow line, which represents self-care, the purple line, recovery planning, and the gray line, mentoring. So we start out by incorporating all the 9 fundamentals, which you can see there, honesty through self-actualization, and then we start to, and we get so much growth, and then we incorporate self-care, recovery planning, and mentoring, and each time with each one of those, it shifts our growth to a higher level. So we can always be doing the recovery concepts while we're working on the fundamentals. Let me just hit my participation points here. Okay, great. And I've got, all right. So, if someone could read this slide, maybe Sarah?
Yep. Sorry, I'm trying to see it. With all the twists and turns and ups and downs of recovery, it can be hard to even. Sorry, it's so tiny on my phone. Tell if growth is occurring by putting the same amount of effort and care into each of the recovery fundamentals. We will get more consistent results than if we were to put all the efforts in one fundamental because of our. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It's so tiny.
Okay.
Because it's so tiny on my phone.
That's all right.
I'm trying to blow it up at the same time and read it. Okay, because let me do that over this part. Because of our own actions and behaviors change and impact the world around us, it is common that we start exhibiting a better relationship with recovery fundamentals. We will experience a minor. Is that mirror or minor?
Mirror.
Okay, a mirror effect from the world. We may sometimes wonder why it seems we receive exaggerating.
Exaggerated. I know you can't see it. That's okay.
Exaggerated. Yeah, reactions or display the fundamentals directed back at us from the society, but can understand that this may be connected to our own inconsistent demonstrations of the fundamentals.
All right, you did great. It looks like we've got at least one more person trying to join us. All right, so I hope everybody understood that pretty good. It's just kind of saying that the more we incorporate the fundamentals into our lives, the more consistent our experiences will be. And then when we change who we are, or be who we are, then we will be changing the world around us. Okay. You did great reading, Sarah. I know it's hard to read on your phone. Just keep trying. Thank you. Does anyone else want to read this one? I could go ahead and read it if we don't have any takers. All right. So, false sense of security. What does this mean? When we experience success at the recovery concepts or later fundamentals, particularly starting with personal responsibility through self-advocacy, support, and purpose, so these are the later fundamentals, we may be lulled into a false sense of security that we are doing well despite shortfalls related to earlier fundamentals. So we encourage that no matter what our level of success with the later fundamentals, we take a look at how the earlier fundamentals show up for us. Gaps in our development may lead to blind spots that may damage our recovery. Does anyone have any questions on that? Anyone want to raise a hand and have any questions? We'll move to the next slide. All right. So why we present the recovery fundamentals and parallel recovery concepts in this order. We start with the recovery concepts because they can occur all along the recovery journey. And then the fundamentals we kind of tackle one by one, but we still, work on our recovery concepts. That's why we call them the parallel recovery concept. Does anyone want to read this slide?
There are many reasons.
Jessica will read it, Sarah.
Okay.
Thank you, Jessica.
There are many reasons if we do not take proper care of each recovery fundamental and parallel recovery concept. Whoopsie. Okay. We will not unlock the full growth potential of incorporating recovery concepts of fundamentals into our lives. We give examples. Let me put my hand down. We give examples of how neglecting components of recovery concepts and fundamental lead to a breakdown of the transition to other components.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. So, like she said, we're going to give some examples of each concept and recovery fundamental. We're going to see how, not doing earlier ones can affect us being able to achieve later ones. Does anyone want to read this? I can read it. This is a pretty big one, so I'll just do that one. Let me update my participation real quick. All right. Okay, so this is how the recovery concepts, and not taking care of these parallel recovery concepts kind of, set us back in trying to achieve growth. So this group process and other methods of recovery can be hard on us emotionally, mentally, and physically. Therefore, it is important that we are kind to ourselves and benefit from this process. From the very beginning of an attempt to better ourselves, such as participating in this group, it will be important to maintain the recovery concepts of self-care, recovery planning, and mentorship. Right from the very beginning, it is important to have a self-care plan, acknowledge the difficulty of this process, and create positive experiences to look forward to. Don't we all want some of that? Develop a recovery plan involving the desired outcome and benefit of this process. So in this group, you have the opportunity to create a really extensive recovery plan. I think it's really great to work on that. And we'll recognize that our participation in this process can either help or hinder the recovery of other participants. So that's really important. We are always mentors, and what we do impacts other people when we participate in recovery. So each of these slides is going to have multiple things on it, 2 or 3 usually going forward for the next few slides. So we'll have multiple readers. I'm going to read if it has 3 categories on it, I'll read the first one, and then we'll need 2 readers for the next 2. So I'll read this. Honesty. If we are in fear of what someone will find out about our secrets, harm done to others, past crimes, and the things that make us feel guilt, shame, or fear of persecution, we will not know what we can trust others with. So that's an example of how not having good honesty in our lives impacts our ability to gain trust. The next one will be trust and how it impacts our ability to have acceptance in our lives. Would anyone like to read trust? Oh, Sarah, you want to read trust?
Sure. Trust. If we cannot trust ourselves or are not aware of who we can trust or what systems are working for us and not against us, we will have a hard time finding acceptance of our situation.
Yep, acceptance of our situation. Awesome, Sarah. Good job. Does anyone want to read acceptance?
I will.
Okay, Jessica.
Acceptance. We cannot.
Kind of went out there. Couldn't hear you. You want to start that over again, Jessica? Starting with acceptance? Okay, maybe Jessica is having some problems with her audio here. So I'll go ahead and read it. Acceptance. If we can't accept our current situation or past experiences and are constantly suffering from them, or if someone or some force has an uncomfortable level of control over our lives, we will have a hard time recognizing things we can hope for. So our experiences, suffering, and people having control over our lives can make us have a hard time with acceptance. And because of this, we'll have a hard time having hope. You see, if people have a lot of control over your life, how are you going to have hope based on your own personal preferences? So that's awesome. I'm going to adjust my participation. And if anyone wants to raise their hand to read hope, that would be great. Okay, Tammy, you can go ahead.
Hope. If we don't have any hope and are not propelled by our desire to achieve a hoped-for outcome, the natural inclination is to be unmotivated about our personal responsibilities. If we can't get satisfaction by working on our hopes, we often fail to develop and perform personal responsibilities.
Awesome. So does anyone have any questions on anything we've read so far? I think Jessica has her hand raised for reading, but if you have a question you'd like to ask first, Jessica, feel free to go ahead, or you can just remain silent and then we'll let you read next. Okay, awesome. So, personal responsibilities. Jessica, if you'd like to read that.
Personal responsibilities. If we are lacking in fulfillment of our own personal responsibilities, we often face resistance from others when we advocate for ourselves because we have that basis to show that we are capable.
Awesome. So I don't know if everybody could hear Jessica very well, but if we're lacking in our personal responsibilities, it becomes hard to advocate for ourselves. People will wonder, what basis do we have for saying that we're capable of something? So self-advocacy, I'll read this one because I missed reading the first one. So self-advocacy. If we fail to effectively advocate for ourselves through means of showing that our capabilities or progress make us a good fit for certain endeavors, or if we advocate for ourselves for that which provides outcomes inconsistent with our recovery, or if we advocate to the wrong people, among other things, we may not get adequate support. So this is all about how we advocate, what basis we have for saying we're capable, and who we're advocating to. And if we have a hard time with our advocacy, we might have a hard time getting support. And support, so this is a big one. Does anyone want to read this one? A lot to read there. Okay, Tammy, great. Thank you very much.
Support. A significant outcome of working through recovery fundamentals leading up to support is that we find ourselves in the best position to begin offering support. It takes support to big goals. If we do not look for support or accept support from the right people, we may have a hard time achieving our goals. With the added effort it takes to achieve goals without support, we have a hard time finding our purpose because of the effort and struggle. Often things that seem more natural or easier for us, or areas where we get the most support, are also the areas excellent to find purpose.
Right. So, does everybody agree with that? If you agree with that, raise a hand. Do you agree that things that are easier for us, or things that we get support for, help us find purpose? Great. So that looks like everybody. Good. All right. Purpose. Does anyone want to read purpose? We're almost close to the end here, actually. So, I really appreciate everybody participating. Jessica, you can go ahead.
Can you hear me okay, or I'm going to have to switch it?
Yeah, I think we can all hear you pretty good.
Okay. So without purpose, to gauge, hold on one second. You're on the screen. Let me zoom out. Which to engage our program, our efforts, we often feel like we are repeating a pattern that rarely changes, that there's no
Okay, I think we are having a hard time hearing you, Jessica. Is everybody else having a hard time kind of hearing
Okay,
her?
can you hear me now?
It seems like it's a little bit better. You're a little bit louder now.
Okay.
Would you mind
So,
starting over?
That's fine.
Thank
Hold on
you.
one second. You're welcome. So, without a purpose with which to gauge our progress or put our efforts when we often feel like we are repeating a pattern that rarely changes, or that there is no perceivable pattern, but rather instability or lack of focus. Finding and incorporating a purpose into our lives leads to self-actualization, a feeling that we are fulfilling our unique potential.
All right. So, everybody kind of wonders, do you need a purpose to get to self-actualization? And, does not having a purpose make it harder? So, as we see there, self-actualization is a feeling that we are fulfilling our own unique potential. I just wonder, can we fulfill our unique potential without a purpose? If you think that you do not need purpose to fulfill your unique potential, raise your hand. All right, so it looks like purpose definitely is something that helps you become self-actualized. So I can go ahead and read this one. Let me update the participation. Jessica, you should be about done with what we need you to participate for. So try to raise your hand last. Self-actualization. This recovery fundamental is often considered a final stage of development. However, to maintain this stage, you must continue to put sufficient and equal amounts of effort into each of the recovery fundamentals. Also, a benefit can be found in incorporating the parallel recovery concepts. So, once we finally get there, and later in the program, we talk about how, self-actualization isn't like a never-ending journey. We actually can arrive at a place where we feel satisfied, where we feel like we are fulfilling our potential. But when we get there, we need to maintain what it takes to keep feeling that way. I'm trying to switch slides. There's more slides here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I hope everybody can see this if you're using your phone. If you can't, that's all right. These are a little bit smaller on a phone. There's a lot of text in there. So if you don't want to read this one or you can't really see it, then just, save your participation till later. We only really have Tammy and Sarah that need to participate here. So, I think, let me see. Yeah. Oh, this is working out. So, 1, 2, 3. We should be pretty close to being done here. I will read the first 3. I will read the first 3 of these. So these are the stages of wellness and recovery. And after we get done with the presentation part of the group, we'll go into an open-ended session. We'll ask a couple questions, like where do you feel you are in these stages of recovery and wellness? So try to remember what each stage kind of symbolized and was about, to kind of figure out where you fit with this. And like also, do you feel like these stages, the way they're set up, are the way you experienced recovery? So, stage 1. In the stage 1 of recovery and wellness, we learn about recovery. We exercise choice. We seek services, counseling, therapy, medication, detox, peer support. We stay away from harmful behaviors. Stay away from negative influences, places, or people. End the pattern of isolation. Finding positive role models is something we do in stage 1. Learn to ask for support. Some people have never asked for support before, so in the beginning of recovery, they're usually encouraged to ask for support. Become personally responsible. Some people neglect their responsibilities for years and years when they're feeling unwell. so we become personally responsible when we begin recovery. Joy and distress can be overwhelming at times. They can be extreme, but fickle. Joy and distress, overwhelming at times. They can be extreme, but they can go away just as quickly as they came. Stage 2, increase in physical health. After we've completed stage 1, we move to stage 2. We increase our physical health, our ability to distinguish between different feelings and handle them, reducing emotions that interfere with our well-being. We have changes in our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. We zone in on our negative behaviors. We have experienced the benefits of recovery and become committed to recovery. This is in stage 2. And maybe stage 1, it takes a year for us. Stage 2, it takes, another year. But by the end of stage 2, we experience the benefits of recovery and become more committed to it. Stage 3, this is the last one I'll read, and then we'll move on to stage 4, and someone else can read. Stage 3, desire to make amends for harm we caused before we began recovery. Becoming the change we want to see in the world. Remember Mahatma Gandhi, become the change you want to see in the world. That's stage 3. We've changed a lot, and now the world is becoming like us. Learning not to inflict self-harm or create hardship. Developing honest and trusting relationships with more people. So you can see, it looks like we've come a long way in the first 3 stages of recovery. And hopefully you all feel like your recovery journey, if you are in recovery, was kind of similar to this. That these stages had these elements. So would anyone like to read stage 4?
Just so you know, my screen won't show everything. It cuts it off at the end, so I'm
Okay.
sorry. I tried to zoom out and it won't let me.
Okay, is there one stage that you can see on your screen, maybe stage 4, 5, or 6?
The stage 4 only have 3 listed, or does it have
No,
more
it
than
has
3?
5.
Yes, yeah, so I can't see. It only goes up to 3 on mine.
Okay.
It cuts it off.
Okay, does anyone else, can you see stage 5 pretty good? It has 4 elements. I see Tammy has her hand up to read stage 4, sorry, go ahead, Tammy.
Stage 4, the ability to use our strengths and knowledge to seize opportunities, automatic use of wellness tools and coping skills, self-forgiveness, building loving relationships rather than dependent ones. For some reason I cannot see, hold on, let me try and flip the screen. Nope. Oh, experiencing enduring happiness.
Awesome,
Do you want
awesome.
me to keep reading or?
Let me just ask Sarah, do you have your phone vertical or horizontal?
I did it both ways and it's still cutting it off.
Okay,
I
I
tried to,
understand.
yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tammy, if you want to go ahead and read another one, that would be great.
Stage 5 is becoming self-actualized, gaining confidence, gratitude, and acceptance, developing integrity and humility, and significant reduction of fear.
All right. So as we can see in the first 3 stages, we're working on developing connections, we're getting support, we're reaching out to therapeutic services, we learn about what recovery is and what it means to us. We work on, our emotional status and handling and identifying emotions. And in stage 3, we try to make amends. We develop more honest relationships. And, if we had a tendency to, cause self-destruction or self-harm, we're getting better at not causing that in our lives. In stage 4, we, become automatically able to use these coping skills we've developed so far, like automatically when we're in crisis or stress, and we learn how to use our strengths and knowledge. So in stage 5, that's when we become self-actualized, and we gain confidence, gratitude, and acceptance. So hopefully all of you understand, where each of these stages fit into the recovery process. And if you can keep in mind, do these occur in order as listed, or do they need to be changed a little bit? So just keep that in mind. And stage 6, of course, is celebration and maintenance. Like we said with self-actualization, once we get there, we need to maintain it, but it's also something we should celebrate. So this one is all for me. I read this whole thing, and I can. Oh, Chris has joined us. Pop up in here. Hey, Chris. I hope we didn't have you waiting too long. If you can unmute yourself and tell me how long I had you waiting, I really appreciate that. Well, I hope it wasn't too long. I hope you can hear us. And we've kind of gone through a lot of the group already, but we're going to ask some questions when we're done. And then hopefully you'll kind of understand some of the things that happened so far.
Sounds
If you
good.
want to
Thank you,
introduce
Dakota.
yourself, Chris, and say how you're feeling today, that would be great.
You're a funny one. I'm Chris. I have felt a million times better. I tooled my back. Took me about 25 minutes to walk 15 steps from my bed to my office. So it's going to be a fun couple of days, but I'm looking forward for this training.
Awesome, Chris. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you being here, even though you've had a pretty rough day and you're kind of hurting. Just hang in there. If we have a participation schedule, and we might lean on you to read some of the slides. This screen probably the text looks pretty small on your screen, depending on your device, but I'm reading all this. But maybe we can get you to read in a little bit. In this group, we take turns reading, and then we have discussion and questions at the end. So these are the guiding principles of recovery. This is the part of the group where we get into the peer support knowledge and like an introduction to peer supportive principles, because, peer support is pretty similar to mentorship, and a lot of people that do this group might want to become peer supporters, and this kind of opens the door for that. So here's a little bit of information about the guiding principles of recovery. These are things we should keep in mind when supporting other people, things we should advocate for them to obtain. So hope, belief that recovery is possible. Hope is a key driver of recovery. It's actually one of the fundamentals of recovery in this group, so you'll hear more about hope later. Person driven, what's this mean? People define their own goals and the path to reaching them. No one achieves them for us. So we decide our own goals, not our supporter. Many pathways and roads. Recovery is highly personalized and different for each person. So recovery is really complex, and with how complex it is, there can be many different causes and then solutions to those problems. So many pathways, highly personalized, different for each person. Holistic. This means that recovery utilizes every aspect of wellness. It emphasizes mind, body, spirit, and community. Peer support. Like I said, this group is a lot about peer support. Peers encourage and engage each other. So it takes someone like ourselves to engage with and encourage each other. Relational. Recovery is supported by people who believe in a person's ability to recover. So if no one believes we can recover, it's going to be pretty hard for us to get where we want to be. It's like a headwind to everything we try to do in recovery if we don't have someone who believes in us. Culture. Traditions, beliefs, and values are important in defining our recovery journey and path. So that's part of, there being many factors to recovery, person driven, it's all unique to each of us, and our traditions, beliefs, and values that are different for each person greatly affect our recovery. Trauma informed. This is a huge principle of peer support and mentorship. So we try to be trauma informed in peer support. Support should promote safety and trust, creating choice, empowerment, and collaboration. So safety and trust are huge for people that have been through a lot of trauma, and choice is something that they may never have had before. So almost done with the guiding principles here. Strengths and responsibilities. Individuals, communities, and families have strengths and resources that can benefit recovery. Individuals have the responsibility for their own recovery, but family and community support are essential. Respect. Acceptance and appreciation are key to recovery. This includes respect from other people and respect for ourselves. That helps us develop a positive identity and confidence. So, that being said, does anyone have any questions about the guiding principles?
Nope.
Anyone have any questions about what person-driven means, or, relational? Recovery being supported by a person's ability to believe in our recovery, or does all this pretty much make sense to you? If it makes sense to you, don't raise hands. You don't have any questions, we'll move forward. Awesome. Thanks everybody for hanging in there. So, who would like to read this? You see that we have 3 bullets on the left, so 3 paragraphs here. Would anyone like to read? We still have
I got it.
Sarah and Chris that do not have participation points. Well,
I'll go
Sarah
for
has
it.
half of them, but Chris has none.
I'm cool with reading it, Dakota.
All right, Chris.
What mentors should know. Peer support is self-directed and works on the principle that people are the experts on their own experiences and needs. It is a type of therapy based on the idea that each person can become more self-aware, take charge of their own lives, and improve. It is person-driven. People define their own goals and the path to reaching them. Peer support uses empathy.
No, Chris, that's all right. You don't have to read that unless you
Oh.
want to, because you do have some participation points to make up here.
Yeah, I was going to read all 3.
Stop at just read this
Second
one,
one?
and then someone
Okay.
else will read the next one.
All right. Peer support uses empathy, a key component of emotional intelligence. Empathy is the ability to understand and accurately perceive the internal experiences of another person. In person-centered counseling, supporters try to show empathy by actively listening to individuals, considering their feelings and experiences, and communicating and accepting them.
So, in peer support, empowerment can come from facilitating self-discovery and growth by allowing people to make their own choices and decisions based on their own values, priorities, and goals. This supports individuality. The mentor supports the mentee in identifying their strengths, resources, and areas for growth, strengths, resources, and areas for growth, and assist them in developing coping strategies, problem-solving skills, and self-care practices. Empathy also helps counteract learned helplessness by creating a safe and supportive environment where clients feel empowered to take ownership of their lives and make positive changes. Empowerment also counteracts the mental patient role, which is an old school term for how we used to be controlled, which by our clinicians and therapists and psychiatrists, which we'll learn a little bit more about, I think, in the next slide. That's the difference between the medical model and a wellness recovery focused approach. So the mental patient role is something that empowerment counteracts. Okay, so maybe that's in the next slide. But Chris, if you want to go ahead. Oh no, we'll have Sarah. Sarah, can you do this one? Can you see the first one up top?
I can see this one.
Great.
Okay. The trauma-informed approach, it cuts that word out in the middle, I'm sorry. The trust and safety at all levels. The practice encourages choices, calibration, and empowerment. To practice the trauma-informed approach, request and accommodate feedback as to how to increase the safety of the environment, increase trust by practicing geniusness and create choices, collaboration, and empowerment by using open-ended or permission questions.
Awesome. Thank you for your participation. So as we can see there, trust increases trust by practicing genuineness and creating choice, collaboration, and empowerment. And we can use open-ended questions and permission questions. So does anyone have any questions about that? There's a couple of new terms in there. Do you want to know what open-ended questions are or permission questions are? Have you ever heard of those?
Nope.
No, you haven't heard of those, Sarah?
I definitely have. No, I don't have any questions about that.
Oh, okay, great, great. So I'll read the bottom one. Chris, do you want to read this one? This next one, stages of change.
You got it. Stages of change include pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. Often, mentors will fail helping someone change behaviors because they do not know how to identify the stage of change a mentee is in. In pre-contemplation, we educate and develop discrepancy. In contemplation, we encourage and view pros and cons. In preparation, we dismantle barriers. In action, we validate. In maintenance, we should encourage consistency and acquiring more skills related to successful outcomes related to the goal or behavior.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. So does anyone have any questions on the stages of change? Maybe you haven't heard of them before. They're really critical in peer support. We have pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. And basically you go from not considering change to considering change to preparing to change, doing what you need to do to change, and then learning skills to maintain what you've accomplished. And supporters can have different roles depending on the stages of change that the person they're serving finds themselves in. And I will read the last one. Some cognitive behavioral therapy is outside of the scope of a peer recovery supporter. Various practices of cognitive behavioral therapy here, like desensitization techniques and use of imagery, are concepts best left to qualified clinicians. However, relaxation therapy may be utilized, as well as cognitive behavioral workbooks that are crafted to address thoughts, beliefs, and feelings. in a way that does not create excessive pressure on the mentee. A lot of cognitive behavioral therapy done by clinicians actually is like getting us to face our pressures and fears. So for a peer supporter, we don't do that. Person-centered techniques, such as building trust and rapport, are often helpful, but not required, as some mentees prefer a more distant approach. However, this distant approach is outside of the scope of a peer supporter. So we use techniques to create trust and rapport, which can be helpful. We might use relaxation therapy, but we would not use like desensitization techniques or like imagery techniques with them. They might be out of the scope of our practice. Cognitive behavioral workbooks. This is actually a cognitive behavioral workbook that we're working through right now. So if you want to look into cognitive behavioral therapy, that'll help you understand this program and the concept and how it relates to peer support. So this is, I'm pretty sure, the last slide. And we could have, if Chris, could you read this? I don't think Sarah will see the bottom, and she's the only one that needs participation points left.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Wait, hold on. Differentiate between the medical model and the wellness-focused approach to recovery. The medical model primarily relates to psychiatry. In the medical model, expert psychiatrists consider the problem being experienced to be related to genetic inheritance or chemical imbalances. They rely on medications-assisted therapy to cause positive change in their patients. This is different from the approach of a social worker, therapist, or peer supporter. A wellness-focused approach often involves peer support or the support of someone with lived experience of mental health or substance use. Moreover, it is considered social determinations of health, such as housing, employment, and social support, politics, environment, and racism, culture, as significant factors of well-being. A wellness-focused, recovery-oriented approach involves growth, meaning, purpose, and employment beyond the problem, which helps a person live the life they want to live.
Awesome. Awesome. So if everybody understood what was said there, the medical model is related to psychiatry, and it involves like genetics and inheritance, chemical imbalances, and they usually rely on medication to assist in treatment. And a wellness focused approach kind of focuses on, again, it's kind of that holistic idea where, we focus on many facets of life, housing, employment, things like that, that lead us to feel unwell. And that's pretty much most of what we heard there. Does anyone have any questions about the medical model or the wellness focused approach?
No questions.
If anyone has any questions, you can raise your hand. We'll give you about 20 seconds if you want to ask any questions. I hope everybody's still with us. It's hard to know because not everybody's on camera. This is like the last slide. Hey, we got Chris on camera. Awesome. Awesome, Chris. So, no one has any questions. I'm going to go over the final slide here, which just tells us what will be coming up for the next group. So you might not know this. We didn't introduce this at the beginning of the group, but we've all kind of told you about this leading up to the group in our personal exchanges. there are 5 sessions to this group. They take place every 2 weeks. You know, sometimes in the future with other groups, this might be a weekly group or it might be a daily group, depending on the situation. But my company likes to keep this as a every 2-week group. So for session 2, make sure to prepare for the special exercise found in the section for self-care. Hopefully you all have the PDF by now, and then you'll see under session 2, which is around like page 60, I believe, that there's a special exercise under self-care. I will show you in a minute what that looks like, and hopefully you'll be able to see that in your book if you just flip through it. Self-care requires us to make a list of 5 wellness activities, which we'll share in groups. Please complete the responses to the passages and questions included in future groups, such as day 2. And the next group, day 2, there will be homework questions, which hopefully you'll fill out before we get there. I'll kind of show you what that looks like. There's some passages that you'll read and you'll answer how the passage relates to the question, of how it relates to the passage, or how it relates to the concept, sorry, how the passage relates to the concept being covered. And then you'll have a couple like thoughtful questions. And my screen went blank. I don't know why. And here's the instructions for the passage responses. So when you read the passage and you want to say, like, for example, how does this passage relate to self-care? Your response is like a little paragraph. It's going to say 5 key words that are found in the passage. You're going to underline the key words that you use from the passage in your response. You see right here, underlined. So we know which ones you used. The recovery concept or fundamental being linked to the passage must be mentioned twice. So if the passage is talking about self-care, okay, then you want to mention self-care twice in your response. As I said before, we want to use 5 keywords from the passage in our response. So I'll just show you real quick what these homework questions look like. Okay, did I hear someone with a question?
No.
Okay. So this is the presentation we'll go over on day 2. These are the self-care passages here, or just this is the information about self-care. It's just information. These are examples of, are you not seeing this? It doesn't look like it's showing. Are you guys seeing a passage there with green text surrounded by a green border?
Negative.
Negative. Okay. Oh, my screen sharing is paused for some reason. Stop sharing, I'll share it again. Share screen. Okay, great. So this is day 2. In your book, you'll see a big blue page that says Radical Recovery Peer Support Day 2. And right behind that, you'll see pages that look like this, talking about self-care. That's some information about self-care. Then you'll start to see these green bordered and green text passages. You'll read these, and again here in your book, it will show you this is how to do the question. How does this passage relate to? Here's a little example of what it should look like. Okay. Here's the actual question. How does the passage connect to self-care? Like I said, so you'll want to include 5 keywords from the passage this is the passage, and you'll want to underline those keywords, and you'll want to mention self-care twice. See, it says self-care here in the response, and self-care here in the response. Down here, this is the assignment that you'll want to complete all of these boxes that have yellow borders, okay? You'll have 3 of them after each passage that looks like this. So you have, in day 2, you have self-care, you have recovery planning, and mentorship. So you'll see that in your PDF. And you'll want to answer all the yellow box questions and this wellness exercise here before we get to next week. So you'll just list 5 wellness goals here, homework, provide a list of wellness activity. So these are things that we do for self-care, and we'll share them in group. And screen sharing has stopped. So that's pretty much what we covered for today's group and what next group will look like. Does anyone have any questions so far before we move on to the questions that I wanted to ask you all? Okay, Jessica, shoot for it.
So you've emailed us the workbook?
Yeah, you should. I think I emailed it to you, Jessica, but we've only connected recently, so I don't know if I did, but I can. And if you're all working from the PDF, because I couldn't send the actual physical book to all of you, a lot more people said they were going to show up and didn't, so I've been sending books to people who aren't even going to be here. So if you're working from the PDF, when you get to the yellow bordered questions, you can just put a comment. You go up to Tools and Comments in the PDF reader, and then you just type in your comment. You stick it to the question. So you just stick it right there on a question. Go ahead, Tammy.
So this book is the one that you had sent me, right? It's the one you wrote.
Yeah, but
The
it's been
one,
a little
and
while.
I'm just asking because I like hard copies of things. Is it something that I can buy on Amazon? Is it available yet?
Yeah, you can order this on Amazon.
Cool.
It's $40.
All right. Yes, not bad. I mean,
Yeah, it's not too bad. It was
it's
very
supporting the
expensive.
cause, right?
Yeah, it was very expensive to go through this process. I had a marketing campaign and all this stuff that's going to be coming out. So trying to recoup the costs. And I'd appreciate it if any of you would buy the book. It's only available on paperback for now, but we'll have audio books and ebooks coming out for all of our programs. Anyone else have any questions on today's content, or did you understand kind of the rundown for next group in your PDF? I'm just not sure what page it's on. Actually, I can look that up. Oh, I can't. I can let you know what page. I can let you know. We're almost done with the group, by the way, guys. So you can just hang in there for a little bit longer. We actually got through this pretty quickly today. This is the book. Am I still screen sharing? I might not be screen sharing, but I'm just going to let you know what page day 2 starts on.
37.
Yeah, so it starts on 37 and it ends on page 67. And day 2 starts on page 68. So I wasn't too far off. Thanks, Chris, for that. You must have pulled that up before I did. More tech savvy than I.
Just was scrolling a little quicker with the mouse, that's all.
All right. Oh, Tammy, you have another question? Tammy, did you have another question, or is your hand still raised? Okay, just
Yeah,
oh,
I had another question. So like the group runs for 5 weeks, correct?
yeah.
You plan on doing it again, right?
I mean, I'm planning on running the groups as a career and as a business, so we'll be running these, throughout the future. Hopefully, this won't be the only one, but yeah, this one will be for the next 5 weeks. Well, 10 weeks because we meet every 2 weeks.
Okay. Because I have somebody that I've thought of that might be interested in joining. Do they have to wait till we start another group then? Ideally, you would like that, right?
No, it looks like we have a couple people that wanted to join us today, but for different reasons might not have been able to make it to this first session. So at least, like, hopefully nobody misses the future 4 sessions. And we'll just do a makeup for the first session. Whoever you want to refer to us can join us in the next, starting with session 2, and we'll just do a makeup session for session 1.
Okay. Cool.
I appreciate you being willing to refer somebody. So, did everybody enjoy the program today? Chris was a little late, but maybe you saw some things that were interesting. If you enjoyed the program pretty well, yeah, we got a smiley face. You can just raise a hand or say something.
So on the cognitive behavior, you said, is that a different class?
Yeah, it's not a class that I have, but it's a therapeutic technique that is really popular. And like they've incorporated that into like therapy, social work, peer support, But some of cognitive behavioral therapy is just a little bit too advanced for a peer specialist to use unless you've taken like another class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way you can get that information?
Yeah, I would just search for it. I'm not too. There is a program that I really like called Moral Recognition Therapy, which is a cognitive behavior. That's a program based on cognitive behavioral therapy, and there are like many programs that are developed using cognitive behavioral therapy. So I would just search, Google like what programs are based on CBT and see what you find.
Okay.
I mean, in like the DSM-5 book, which is about this thick, about that much of it is CBT. The other one is DBT, and the most of that book is on mindfulness.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like the 3 trifecta areas of mental health and wellness most popular these days. So before we get to the questions, I need to ask you to wrap this group up. Does anybody want to say anything else? Okay, all right. So we got a couple questions here. Okay. Have you ever considered that participating in recovery automatically makes you a mentor? Do you agree with this? Do you not agree with this? Have you ever considered that participating in recovery automatically makes you a mentor to others in recovery? Okay, so Chris is shaking his head. Does anybody else agree? If you agree, you can just raise a hand.
I think any more knowledge that you have about any kind of thing in life, you can share with other people to help them.
So as long as you're participating, you're kind of like a mentor in some sort of fashion. It seems like some people have not raised their hands or spoken. So do I take it that you disagree that when you're in recovery, you're saying you're not really a mentor to others in recovery?
I disagree with that. I mean, because your experience can help other people, or your knowledge that you've gained from being your experience. You know, uh, volunteering where I am trying to finish up my CPRS, I walk in the other day and say, oh, she's the perfect girl for you to ask that question. She has lots of information. So, it's just one of those things, depending on your wealth of knowledge and everything, you can share with other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, like if we are, in a support group and we're behaving inappropriately, we never know how that might impact someone else. They might be looking up to you for the wrong reasons. That could impact their recovery. So, raise your hand if you believe that mentoring occurs at every stage. So, whether you're doing good, whether you're doing bad, do you believe that mentoring is always occurring? Kind of the same question, but a little different. If I could just get you guys to raise your hand if you believe that mentoring occurs at every stage. Okay, Chris. Jessica, Tammy, great. Sarah, do you think that mentoring occurs? Okay, great. Got a thumbs up for that one. She's excited. All right. So it looks like everyone pretty much agrees. Okay. Have you ever heard of peer support before this group? If you've heard of peer support, you just raise your hand. Jessica, great. Tammy, heard of it. Chris? Chris is laughing so hard he's got tears. Okay, I love it. Yeah, Chris definitely knows about peer support. I know that for a fact. And then, do you think you could have a career in peer support? If you would like to have a career in peer support or think that you could have a career in peer support, please raise your hand. Okay, everybody's pretty interested in a career in peer support. That's great. So, does everybody kind of feel like this group has introduced peer support in a positive way? Chris, you did get here right when we started kind of introducing peer support topics. I think you might have missed the stages of wellness and recovery. So Tammy, did anybody else have their hand raised and I missed it? Do you believe that this group kind of taught some good peer support information? Great, thank you, everybody. All right. Very briefly, if anybody has experience being a peer, please talk about your experience here. Just raise your hand if you've been a peer and if you'd like to share on what your experience was like. Okay, Chris, shoot for it.
I have my certified recovery specialist and certified peer specialist and certified peer specialist supervisors certifications, along as my associate drug and alcohol counselor. And right now, I had just sent out to get my national certified peer recovery support specialist certification. I have been in the emergency rooms. I've worked drug court. I've have ran a center of excellence. I've taken a lot of high profile positions directly from graduating my CRS class. The one that I had enjoyed the most, would say it's tough for me. Like I remember sitting in class saying, when my teacher mentioned emergency rooms, I'm just giggling and I'm just like, he's like, what's funny, Chris? And I'm just like, come on, man. Like, you see me? You think I'm gonna be in the emergency room? I go, that's the last place you're gonna see me. When the opportunity arose, I decided to take it because, well, it was something I wanted to experience, and I wanted to see what barriers I was able to break down there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. So I don't think anyone else here has actually started in the field of peer support. So we'll just move on to the next questions. A couple more questions, and then we'll open it up to an open group discussion if anyone wants to talk about anything after we finish these questions. If you want to leave at that time, you can leave. And we appreciate you joining us today. So, remember earlier we talked about the stages of wellness and recovery. We asked you to try to think about where you were in the stages of recovery, if you are on the recovery journey, and we asked you to kind of think about, did anything seem misplaced? Did it seem like it was in the wrong stage? So what stage of wellness or recovery do you think you're in? Everybody could just raise their hand and I can call on you. You can tell me what stage of wellness or recovery you think you're in. There were 6 stages. Does everybody remember what we were talking about with the stages of wellness and recovery? You don't have to answer this question. This is voluntary part of the group. You got your participation points already for reading. Okay, Jessica, what do you think? What stage of wellness and recovery do you think you're in?
Let me go back. I took a copy of it, picture of it. Hold on one second.
Did you need me to bring the slide back up?
Yes, if you don't care.
Yeah, I can do that. Just almost there. Oh, picture. Okay, share screen. All right, Jessica, can you see that?
Yes.
Should be. There we go. It's full screen now.
Let's see here.
If everybody else just wants to go ahead and look at that again and try to identify what stage you think you're in, we can take a few minutes for you to look over that.
I think I feel like I'm at stage 6, really.
Wow, wow. And I think the next question is, how do you know you are in this stage?
Obviously I'm working on my CPRS and I've overcame a lot of obstacles and adversity, and dealing with situations like that. Hold on.
Wow, yeah, sounds like you've come a long way. Could you go ahead while we have you engaged here, answer, are there any parts of this stage process or any elements of each stage that you think are out of place and belong in a different stage?
Let's see here. I think it's pretty much self-actualized. I think everything's in order the way it should be. Anything else, do you have anything like?
Awesome, Jessica, I appreciate that. So, Chris, do you want to go ahead?
Yep, I am in stage 6. I would say I was in stage 5 up until April 11th of this year when I hit 5 years. Then I hit stage 6.
Wow. Well, like, how do you know that you're in stage 6? So you feel like you've gone through each of these stages and it's brought you to stage 6, and that these are laid out in a pretty good order of what the experience of recovery is?
For sure, and the way that I'm looking at it, and this is just my personal opinion, is each so once the number, the statistic is once we hit 5 years, right? That's when you have the chance of hitting the home run and having long-term sobriety the rest of your life. Okay. Um, so stage 1 is for me is your first year. Stage 2 is your second year. Stage 3 is your third year. Stage 4 is your fourth year, and then mingled in there, stage 1 and 2, stage 3, stage 4, and then once you get to stage 6, that's those 5 years all together. And everything is obviously going the way it should and meshing well. We are, for sure on that stage 6. But don't
Great,
get too
great.
confident because, there's one more step to that and it's relapse.
But relapse is a reality and not a requirement. So
That's
some
correct.
people incorporate relapse into the stages of change, but it doesn't have to be a reality. And with these stages of wellness and recovery, it doesn't have to be in this exact order. This is just kind of like what most people's experience probably is like. Some of these things can occur in a different order or out of step, but hopefully they kind of fit the overall image. You might go through some of these at different times. Yeah, Jessica, you have your hand raised. Go ahead. Did you just leave your hand up, Jessica, or did you want to go again? I don't remember if you lowered it. Okay, Jessica's lowered her hand. Well, everybody, this is the end of the first group. We got done a little early today. We can have an open discussion if anyone wants to talk about peer support or what we've learned today. If anyone wants to talk about what they think about, how the recovery fundamentals, the earlier ones, affect our ability to reach the later ones. Like, do you agree that it takes accomplishing the earlier ones to really succeed at the later ones? I can bring up again the fundamentals. So as you saw, it was honesty, trust, and acceptance, hope, personal responsibility, self-advocacy, support, purpose, and self-actualization, with the first ones listed impacting our ability to achieve the later ones. Does anyone want to comment on that? And Chris, you weren't here when we went over the false sense of security, when everybody is welcome to leave the group at this